Hello, welcome back to Rooftop Talks. I'm going to try and get a video recorded before the sun completely goes away and we're in darkness. Wish me luck. I want to talk about the burden of proof when we're discussing violent propositions and dangerous propositions, dangerous solutions to problems that we have. In debate, I think it's useful to establish the burden of proof. Who has the burden of proof in two sides of an argument? Let's consider the stakes of each side, if they are indeed wrong in the debate. So, if the vegan side is wrong, what do you get? If the non-vegan side is wrong, what do you get? What are the stakes? Now, with veganism, the stakes are not that bad. Let's say you're a really confident carnist, and you're arguing for carnism, and you just don't believe the claims that vegans are making are true. Maybe you don't believe that animals are sentient and have personhood and have innate rights, and that animals are not deserving of rights. Okay, what if you're wrong? The consequences for being wrong about that are catastrophic, absolutely catastrophic. Now, veganism, on the other hand, it's in the same league as a lot of different peaceful lifestyle choices. For example, Jainism is one that it's kind of similar, rings similar to Jainism. And I've heard it said by Sam Harris before. Sam Harris praised Jainism. I'm not very familiar with Jainism, but Sam Harris praised Jainism by saying that the more extreme a Jainist becomes, the less we have to worry about them. If a Jainist wants to take their ideals to the extreme of non-violence, the less we have to worry about them. Okay? Now let's apply it to utilitarian, because a lot of the vegan community is kind of infected with this utilitarian attitude, which I disagree with. I am not a utilitarian, I'm a deontologist through and through. The more extreme you become as a utilitarian, the more we have to worry about you. In fact, it's just a hop, a skip, and a jump away from becoming a totalitarian dictator in league with Stalin, Hitler, Mao, some really nasty people in history. Now, I want to tie this into another idea I have, which is this idea of wedge issues. This is just what I call it. It's certain ideas that anti-vegans and non-vegans have are ideas which kind of are like a wedge in a doorway to bad behavior, immoral behavior. For example, we can take a fringe case like bivalves in veganism. That's a fringe case, right? Some people think that bivalves, you shouldn't eat bivalves, you shouldn't kill bivalves, and some people think you should. So that's a fringe case. It's a grey area. There's dispute in that territory. Whatever you think about it, you can admit at least that it's disputed. Non-vegans, I've met non-vegans who use fringe cases such as bivalves as a wedge to open the door to much more blatant, horrific moral injustices. For example, they'll say, well, I don't know if a bivalve is sentient. So for me, I'm going to kill bivalves to eat because they're high in protein or whatever, high in omegas, whatever. That's the wedge, okay? And then they use that wedge to open the door to everything else. So following from that, they'll say, and since we don't know if bivalves are sentient, and I make an exception for bivalves, maybe I can also make an exception for goats. Maybe I can make an exception for pigs, chickens, salmon. Who's to say that salmon are sentient if bivalves aren't sentient, you see? And I hope you can see how you're using that as a wedge, and you're taking one conclusion that you made, and you're using that to justify things that need an entirely new, fresh set of questioning according to you. Now, I think a much safer, more responsible form of reasoning is to kind of draw a perimeter around sentience. So we don't know if bivalves are sentient, so just in case, we're not going to kill them, and we're not going to eat them, because you never know. And I think we can do that, right? We don't know how much insects are capable of suffering, so we're not going to kill them. And by the way, we don't need to kill them. So this is fine. This is a choice we have. We have a choice to make here, and we can not kill them. So let's do that. Problem solved. End of discussion. We don't need to talk about bivalves anymore. We don't need them. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Because if you were in the bivalve situation and you turned out to be even the slightest bit sentient and you were about to be boiled alive, you would hope that humans gave you the benefit of the doubt. Okay, not all bivalves are boiled alive. Some of them are literally split open down the middle and just ripped in half. Whatever. If you could feel temperature changes in the water because you have an evolutionary need, an evolutionary adaptation to want that ability, okay, you would not want to be thrown into a vat of boiling water, and you would hope that the humans gave you the benefit of the doubt when it came to that question. The stakes are higher, much higher, on the side who's proposing violence, and therefore the burden of proof should be on non-vegans. And I want to start seeing this in debates. The burden of proof should be on non-vegans to justify their proposals of violence, enslavement, and subjugation. The way that we should see the debate in veganism is not as a continuation of tradition, because we can all think of traditions that were barbaric, that we should never have done, and we would never use tradition to justify them in those contexts. So instead of starting like that, we should start each debate as proposals from now into the future. So for example, here's a good thought experiment. Let's imagine that on planet Earth, it's only been us humans, just us and a few insects to pollinate the plants, okay? And there were no fauna on Earth. And then they started sprouting out of the ground and coming into existence, and we're like, oh, look at this. Loads of cool animals, loads of different species that we've never seen before. We have a discussion, big discussion, roundtable discussion among all of the chief scientists, talking about what to do about this. What should we do, if anything, with these new animals that we're meeting, that we're discovering? And one side says, how about we just leave them alone and we observe them from a distance and we appreciate them from a distance? You can learn about them in textbooks. You can watch some documentaries on them where the cameramen are hiding in the bushes, just watching their behavior. We can learn a lot from them. But beyond that, we just let them be. Live and let live. And the other side says, well, I had this idea that we could lock them into cages and we could pump them full of all kinds of different chemicals and things. We could perform autopsies on them while they're conscious. We can also kill them whenever we want because they're not that powerful, they're not as smart as us. So we can just kill them and we can use their bodies for different things. Maybe they're pretty tasty and we can start eating them. Maybe the milk is high in calcium, and because of that, I mean, we have other sources of calcium, loads of them, spinach, broccoli, whatever, but they have a source of calcium and we can market that and start making loads and loads of money from the products by manipulating the bodies of these animals. Now, if you were at that council meeting, you would think that this side is sensible and you would think that that side is fucking off their rocker nuts. When we take away historical justifications, when we take away tradition and habit, when we take that away, one side is very reasonable and very peaceful. There are no dire consequences if they're wrong about their proposal. And the other side is just terrifying, just absolutely horrific proposal. They would get laughed out of that roundtable discussion the moment they started bringing up those proposals. Do you understand what I mean? I hope I'm making sense here. Look, the fact is, every conceivable debate on the subject of the ethics of consumption, there is the side of the carnists who are advocating for practices that are in line with what they have been raised and indoctrinated to already believe. How convenient. And there's the vegans who have had to break out of their childhood indoctrination and think with clarity, detach themselves from those early childhood biases and start living in the 21st century. And if you've seen enough of these discussions and debates and outreaches online, hopefully you'll come to the same conclusion that anti-vegans, the moment they step up to the mic, or even before they step up to the mic, they've lost. Because they picked the side of the indefensible. They chose to step up to the mic and propose the continuation of behavior that is batshit insane, that is inhumane, perpetuating and continuing animal abuse. And they can list off a bunch of excuses. It's convenient, it's what I've always done, I enjoy it, but it does not change the fact that they lost the moment they picked the side of animal abuse. They might be able to trick themselves into thinking that they've won, but they haven't. They never will, and they never have. And any victory on the side of an animal abuser is merely a delay, a historical delay in the timeline of animal enslavement. It is merely delaying the date of animal emancipation. That date is coming. It is a time in our future. I do not have a crystal ball, so I do not know when that time comes. But no injustice lasts forever. The time is going to arrive. At that time, when animals get their day of liberation finally, that is when history finally gains perspective on the enslavement of animals.
This is a personal feud. If a guy wants to beat his wife and his dog bites him, that's between the three of them, right?
Thank you. You're right.
Yeah. Here, you walked right up to him and you said, only a punk beats his wife and dog. These were your words. Now, you said it.
But there was somebody about 30 feet to my left beating his wife to a pulp on the rocks. You know.
To keep a woman in line, you got to beat him like a rug once in a while, you know?
Well,